taking a look at the health sector, we've got Dr. Julian Ojebo, who is the first Vice President of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, joining us from our studios in Abuja. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Well, yes, NERD still at this matter. So could you give us the latest perspective now? Where are we in this, concerning the strike now? What is the recent position?
Good morning, Chamberlain. Today is the 5th day of our total indefinite action that we embarked upon. Throughout yesterday, we had several talks with both the Ministry of Health. We also had meetings with the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum to also tell him about the problems that we have that have been bedeviling the health sector in relations to the state tertiary health institutions. We made it clear that most of our demands are not about remunerations. Most of our demands about the dilapidated health system. We talked about the rots in the health system. We talk about personal protective equipment that are not available in our state tertiary health institutions. We also did talk about the infrastructural decay in our state tertiary health institutions, and these problems have been a recurring decimal, and we had quite an elaborate discussion with the chairman and also with the governor of Oyo State also in attendance. Where we are now is still at the level of promises, still having those promises, and we're hoping that in no distant time, these promises will really materialize into something that is tangible enough for us to use and get back to work as quick as possible.
Yeah, when you say you're still at the level of promises, what specific promises have been made?
Yeah, so far so good. We hear from the Minister of Health that personal protective equipment have been disbursed to most chief medical directors, but most of our members in those institutions have not reported back to us that they are in receipt of the personal protective equipment. Also, the promises still, we've always been on the front line of that. Our members have been dying from various health-related diseases, most especially COVID-19. 10 of our members have died, and nothing has been done with regards to the life insurance for these our members. Over 800 of our members have been exposed to COVID-19, 200 tested positive. So at this moment, we really don't have any paperwork to prove, to show that all they have been saying that the life insurances have been completed, we've still not seen them yet. So until we see these paperwork that they are real, they are legit, then we know that we're making some progress. Also, with regards to the medical residency training funding, we don't have anything concrete at this very moment to say that works are on top speed to make sure that these the template for the medical residency training has been instituted. So it's still at the level of promise because we don't have anything tangible to say, okay, these and these have what have been done so far. So we're still hoping and waiting that very soon we would get all that we deserve and we desire.
When some of those demands that you've highlighted, for instance, the health sector, these are not things that can be addressed immediately in a month or two. Some of these things will take a while, given the processes that they have to go through. So how is NERD expecting the authorities to respond to some of those particular issues?
Thank you, Chamberlain. Every negotiation has a template. If there is a template on the table, we can now say, okay, this is the template we're using, because we're not we're not unaware of government tactics to delay. 2014, we did have a memorandum of terms of settlement for arrears that were owed to our doctors, written from 2014, 2015, and 2016. There was a memorandum of terms of settlement, but this has not been actualized. Okay, government has really reneged on their decision that they actually also did make. Now also, the government also did say across board to all health workers that we're going to pay the hazard COVID inducement allowances. These hazard COVID inducement allowances, only 11 centers have gotten them. At the point they said they had paid, they had not paid. So we keep getting this high level of insincerity and non-committal from executive appointees. So this has been the major dilemma that we've always had in the health sector. When they say a word, they don't keep to their promises. So this time, we really want something concrete that we can say, fellow Nigerians, this is the promises they have made to us, and on our honor, we're calling off this, we're suspending this industrial action for another time, but we really don't have them at this very time. So we need some form of framework, some form of template. When we're discussing with the state tertiary health institutions, we want some form of template. We don't just want promises like, I'll do this, I'll do that. We're used to, I will do this, but we've not gotten them at this very time. So that's what we are still insisting, that we want to sit down to iron out these gray areas so that they will be made crystal clear that these are the decisions that have been reached following the negotiations.
I thought that there was a sit-down between the association and the Minister of Health recently, which he highlighted yesterday. Was there?
There was a sit-down, but we don't have anything pen to paper. All we just have are just word promises. So we want them to be on pen and paper such that we can say, okay, this was the agreement that was reached. Until we have something concrete, until we have something tangible, we don't think there's an end in sight to the industrial disharmony.
Is it concrete when he also did say concerning the PPEs that the states have received those and then they were supposed to now act based on that?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
He also did talk about state governors, the states having received some PPEs. What information do you have on that?
Okay, like yesterday we have a discourse with the governor of Oyo State, His Excellency Seyi Makinde, and he did tell us about his plans, about the distribution of PPEs and then the equipment of most of the isolation treatment centers for COVID. He only told us. We have contacted our residents in those centers, and they have not been giving us that very positive figures that we need. We want these personal protective equipment in abundance because we are currently in the community transfer for COVID, and we keep using these personal protective equipment. So we need them in their numbers. If we don't have them in their numbers, it's going to be a difficult thing. Like somebody did say yesterday to the hearing of the governor that we as health workers, we haven't even seen these N95 masks. We don't even know how they look like. We only see them on TV. We only see them on executive appointees. We use the standard surgical face masks. So if we're saying that these personal protective equipment have been provided in abundance, then we know that they have been provided. Our members will get back to us and tell us that they are in abundance and we have them at this very time. So, but for now, we do not have them. We do not have that feedback from our members at the state level. So once we do have that feedback from our members at the state level, we now know that, oh, okay, there's some form of progress. So we can now say the promises that have been made can actually be sustained. So that is where we are currently.
Could you put some numbers to some of these things? Well, when you say you want feedback from the states, do you expect the governors to all respond in the same way, or is there a percentage of those equipments that you expect to receive to meet a certain percentage of the doctors in those states? Shed some light on that.
We have 36 states in this country. If 10 of our members are calling back and saying that the disbursed personal protective equipment had gotten to us, that's some form of committal to our own course. So we now know that, oh, they have actually now moved from the process of promises to actualization of these promises. Then we can now say the other ones that are on the way, we can now say we can suspend our action after meeting with our National Executive Committee and present to them that these 10 states or these 11 states have sent, and we have confirmed that they do have them in these centers. So after that, then the National Executive Council will now say, oh, because of these commitment level, we can now say, let's suspend our total indefinite strike for the time being, and giving the other governors some time to also replicate them in their own centers. Also, this applies to the federal government. If we get to see the templates for the medical resident training funding, if we get to see the templates for the life insurances for our members, if we get to see the templates for payment of our 2014, 2015, 2016 salary areas, then we now know that, oh, for sure, there is a template, and we can now move forward and say, let's give the government time to implement this template that they have given. There should be some form of committal from the government before we can now say, oh, for sure, these and these have been done. But at this very moment, we don't have that level of commitment. So we're looking at the level of commitment and our promises and our demands to say these and these have been snowballed into action. But on this very issue, nothing is done at the moment. Now, take a look at the hazard inducement allowance they said they paid. They paid to 11 centers.
Okay. Well,
out of the 36 states of the Federation.
Doctor,
so this
just
gives
one
you
moment.
some form of worry.
Add the rest of your thoughts. Add to the rest of your thoughts your response to this question. It would seem like you want intervention from the federal government on the one hand and the states on the other hand, because you've talked about pockets of states now. You've talked about the PPEs and a number of other things. Are these requests from the Federal Ministry of Health or the state ministries of health? Because, I mean, we have heard your interface with the federal government authorities, but we just hear pockets of conversations that you're having with one state governor or the other. What kind of intervention are you having at the state's levels? Are you speaking, are your members, your executives at the state level speaking with the governors individually, or it's something that you're taking on together?
Yeah, all around the country, our members, our national executive members, that are presidents and the other executive members in the individual local chapters have been given the mandate to interface with their individual governors. We decided as the national body to interface with the chairman of the National Governors Forum. We know he's just the first among his equals, but he still has a vantage point to making home these demands to the erring governors. Take, for example, in the issue of Kaduna State, where His Excellency Malam Nasir El-Rufai single-handedly reduced the salaries of health workers across the state by 25%. So we've made our plea known to the His Excellency Governor Fayemi that at this critical time, this is not necessary. Our members are going to work on the daily. Our members are being exposed on the daily. And you're now cutting their salaries by 25%. Mind you, this is not 25% of the total 100% salary. Kaduna State government pays 62.5% of the agreed salaries of the revised comments of 2019.
Yeah, but Dr. Julian,
now
Kaduna State government
quota of 62.5%.
Okay, but Kaduna State government,
So
the last time we spoke with them, they said it wasn't unilateral, that they had put up a message and then there was communication, but the NARD doctors there who are employees of the state government They wanted everyone across board, but the impression was that the doctors wanted something differently. So to that extent, can you still say it was unilateral?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Kaduna State government's communication is that it wasn't unilateral, that they did involve all of those who were concerned, not just the state's doctors employed by the state.
Yeah, it was across board. All the health workers, all health workers.
Okay.
But they interface. The point is they interface, the government interfaced with those health workers before that action was taken. Also, we also remember that the Kaduna State government also said that they gave some specific concessions to health workers. They give them some form of allowances as a result of the risky job that they're doing. Isn't that, satisfactory on its own?
That's not true. That's not true. The governor of Kaduna State is a beneficiary of the good work that the doctors of Kaduna State are doing. He never interfaced with the doctors in Kaduna State. He never interfaced with them. So if you didn't interface with someone, how then do you go into his salary and take part of his salary? He never interfaced with our doctors. And now he's saying that he has. Is that not ironical? You say you have special packages for doctors and health workers, and yet you single-handedly remove 25% of the 62.5% you've been paying them.
Okay, well, we'll see how they respond to that. But speaking about which, when you spoke about some monies that have not been paid, the communication from the Ministry of Labor is that he says that the federal government has paid $2 billion to health workers across board in 14 teaching hospitals and the FMC. This was what he said as at Monday. And then he went on to say that there are about 43 of 52 teaching hospitals and the FMC, and that by Wednesday, $4 billion would have been paid out for this purpose.
Chamberlain, again, this government, executive appointees of this government have been shifting the goalpost. You're aware that he did say that he had paid these monies 2 weeks ago. He also did come on TV and said he had paid on Monday. We were in the meeting with him and he told us that he had paid the previous night. And these were all not true. As we speak to you, information we have at our disposal is that they've only paid 11 centers. 11. That's the information we have as at 12 midnight of yesterday. Just 11 centers. So I don't know what the 14 centers, because those other additional 3 centers have not told us anything. So we don't know where those 3 centers are.
I'm sure you've been following the trend. I mean, COVID-19, the figures keep rising. We just recorded 745. We're in the community phase of transmission. You also, you referenced that earlier on. And to be honest, we don't know what the future holds when it comes to our health system, the management of COVID-19. Now we have this strike to grapple with. And I mean, you say it's indefinite. The question is, how far are you willing to go?
As a sign of good faith to the public, and because of the intervention of the Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, and the Chairman, House Committee on Health Services, Dr. Tanko Sununu, we did convey to our members the need for us to make sure that every of our treatment isolation centers all across the country is covered. Now, we've done that to make sure that members of the NARD and other staff of the hospital are in unison in the treatment of these Nigerians in these various centers. So we have made calls, and we are sure, we're 100% sure that all these centers are well covered. So we don't have any problem with the coverage of the isolation treatment centers. Now, what we did say was that we're giving a caveat of 2 weeks. Okay, within 2 weeks, if we don't get any tangible declaration, as it were, from the government, then we're going to be having the need to reconvene another National Executive Council meeting to discuss withdrawal of our members from those treatment isolation centers. But at this very time, we do have all our treatment centers properly covered. All the doctors ranging from different level of specialty, from medicine to laboratory medicine, are all covering these various hospitals. So we do have them covered.
You know
so
that
we do not have
COVID-19...
any fear with the response to the treatment in these centers.
Right. You know, COVID-19 is just a part of the whole. There are other ailments that people will go to the hospital naturally just to get some form of care or treatment. So aside COVID-19, that seems covered. And I'm sure you recall during the stages of COVID-19, there were reports that, patients were being turned away. A lot of people, didn't get care because of the fear of COVID-19, basically saying that there are other ailments right now aside COVID-19. So yes, you say COVID-19 is covered, but there are other ailments. We have people telling us that they can't get access to care as at now across the different health centers in the country. So the question still is, how far are you willing to go with that?
The Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria did instruct the members to make sure that they cover various emergency points. Using case in study where I work, Ero Specialist Teaching Hospital, the accident and emergency is being covered by medical and dental consultants. So the consultants are there to take care of very dire emergencies and also the patients that are still in the ward. Remember, we work, our training is some form of specialist training. We work under these consultants, and now these consultants are still there delivering services to the people of Nigeria. Most of the accident and emergency centers are being covered by the consultants in the various departments. So we're not so familiar with the term people are being turned back and they're not being taken care of. I don't think any consultant is turning back any patient. They're really taking care of them, and we hope...
excuse me for jumping in. We want to just put in two things.
From this media,
we want to put in two things before we go. First is that
will be done, and then we can achieve what we want to achieve.
All right. There's so many people who are wondering that, look, as it is now, with the COVID-19 figures just going up on a regular basis, they wonder, why are the doctors choosing this time, knowing that the healthcare sector could be overwhelmed? Why not a little later after this COVID?
Chamberlain, like I said, our demands have been for the past 20, 30 years. You heard the former Minister of Health, Professor Chukwu Onyebuchi, did say that everything Nigerian doctors have gotten over time, they did get from industrial actions. So why did the government, why do we need to wait for doctors to embark on an industrial action before there's some form of negotiations? We've been meeting. Our president, Dr. Aliyu Sokomba, has been fantastic. He's been coming to meet these people on the daily, and then we don't get any some form of committal. So why do they wait till the doctors are fed up? Why do we have to wait till that time?
Okay.
Now, we're even talking about
also add to this, Dr. Ojebo.
Working at this
Just
time.
one moment, just very, very quickly, that point is noted. But are you also aware of the Trade Dispute Act Section 43 that says that where any worker takes part in a strike, he shall not be entitled to any wages or other remuneration for the period of the strike? That's what the Minister of Health has also said. Are you aware of that? And how do you respond?
We're aware of the tactics by executive appointees of government to withhold compensation or salaries due workers, people in the labor sector. However, I want to say that the Minister of Labor is not being owed any salary. The Minister of Health is not being owed any salary. If they were being owed, they would have protested. We've seen in this country where members of the National Assembly have had curse to say, give us what you owe us.
Okay, so we get your point, but we need to go.
Doctors are being paid.
All right, we get that point. What's the time for the next meeting? Has anything been scheduled? Just quickly, please.
We have a meeting today. They'll be calling us very soon.
All right. Thank you very much, Idin, and we wish you all the best. We hope this is sorted as soon as possible so that everyone can get back to what we do. So thank you for talking to us today, Dr. Ojebo.